Hey, Big V here. Today we're talking teams. We're going to talk about how to increase your communication skills on your team. How to get your team members to stick with you is all about using the right tape. Now, you don't spell tape like TAAPPE. We're going to spell tape completely different today. We're going to spell it like this: TAAAPPE. Are you ready? It's TAAAPPE. That's our system called TAAAPPEE. And here's how it works. The first thing is, in order to create awesome communication, you have to have transparency. T is transparency. It's regular meetings, create openness, an environment where people can share with you how they're feeling and you can share with them positive feedback and areas where we need for improvement. That's our first T. The first A is this: alignment. It helps ensure everybody is aligned with what our goals are. Where are we going? We're on the same page, not just with the big vision, but also our daily task and understanding how do we measure a win at the end of each day. A number two is accountability. What is accountability? Accountability is love. It's creating an environment where people choose accountability. Accountability isn't something you do to someone. It's not making someone do something they don't want to do. It's just getting feedback and make sure you close that feedback loop. People function better when they're in an environment where they know that you're going to inspect what you expect. If you don't inspect what you expect, then they start to cut corners and you don't realize that there's effective communication on your team until it's too late. And then you usually have either turnover, disgruntled employees, or people that just flat out don't function well in your environment. The next A, remember we talked about, the T was what? Transparency. The first A is alignment. The second A, accountability. The third A in our TAAAPPE is the agility. That's the daily huddles, the ability to use an agile process to change the direction of what you're working on because something became more important. Being agile with your team and being able to communicate why we're shifting focus instead of just doing it without the communication is what keeps the team cohesive together and rowing in the same direction. The daily huddle, usually at the beginning and the end of the day, creates agility and focus with your team. Are you ready for the first P? Remember how many P's are there? There's two. The first one is prioritization. And that is, how do you prioritize what's the most important thing to do next? In our team, we focus like this. Number one, events with dates. If it's something that has a date, a scheduled appointment, or a scheduled event, that goes first. Number two, we always focused on dollar productive activities. Will this event, will this activity, will this task or this to-do generate revenue? Is it a dollar producing activity? We call them MMAs. And then number three, operational excellence. Is this something that focuses on the operational foundation of the business that allows us to create scale? Making sure that everybody understands how to prioritize our day, prioritize the things that make the biggest impact makes a huge difference on effective communication. We call that prioritization. The next P, and you remember how we spelled tape, is TAAAPPE. So now our double P is simply this. It's problem solving. How do we solve problems and when? As a team that has a desire to have more effective communication, when we're focused on problem solving, what that means is we create an environment where we don't have people problems, we have process problems. So instead of challenging or saying that our people have an issue or a problem, we say, okay, where's our process failing us? Because a problem has existed, not because of our people. I don't believe anybody gets up every day and hopes they fail. They want to do the right thing. So if you're not getting the results you want, then instead of attacking people, attack the process. How do we solve the process? We have a process problem, not a people problem. And it happens by doing the daily huddles, by creating an environment where we question process. We encourage conflict when we're attacking process, not people. Ready for E? Ease engagement. This gives every team member a voice. It's creating and fostering communication style where people want to be engaged, where they don't get shut down by sharing their ideas and by having a voice. I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot in my career, but one of the things that's been really important to me is understanding how valuable people's advice is and their input. Everybody has different experiences in life that helps them think about situations from a different perspective. You think about things because of your experience and because of the things you've experienced in your life, and that's a good perspective, but it's not the only perspective. And it's so fun when you create this environment, this culture where engagement is encouraged, because you start to see all these other perspectives come together, and the way you problem solve, innovate, and create new opportunities is by having that culture of engagement, and it's fun to see. The last is efficiency. Oftentimes you've heard to do stand-up huddles or stand-up meetings. Those stand-up meetings create efficiency where we're not spending an hour doing a meeting just because we have it on the calendar. If we could do a meeting in 10 minutes because we're standing up, we can look at the huddle, we can deal with important issues, and we can move on. Those important short huddles are critical, but make sure that they're valuable and that you're not meeting just for meeting's sake. Be efficient in the way you communicate and create that environment that it becomes sticky. Having a team that stays together, that is glued together, that is taped together, if you will, is all about effective communication, and following that system is how it really works. So now let's talk about the second part. The second part of clear communication and effective teams happens by clearly defining roles and clearly defining goals. We've now put together our TAAAPPEE program. Now it's time to think about who does what and how do we get them to do it. It starts by number one, identifying the roles. What are your roles on the team? Are you a listing partner, a buyer's agent? Do you do both? Are you client care? Do you serve the customer? Are you inside sales? Are you doing transaction processing? What is your role and how do we define it? One of the things really important when you define necessary roles is that everybody crosses over into other roles. Nobody has a role where they only have to do what's defined. We have the roles of the team, and our role is to do a certain thing together, and we all work together. I worked with an office one time whose culture was they had a support team that had 5 people on the support team. They all agreed that nobody was going to leave until they all had their tasks done. And so even though they had different roles and responsibilities, when one had theirs done, they couldn't leave until the other members of the team had their stuff done. And so they created a culture of support and helping each other, whether it was undone tasks or support issues or client care coordinating. It was really fun to watch the team get together. What happened is everybody started getting things done earlier, supporting each other so they could all leave on time or sometimes even earlier. And when there was a big project or something that needed to be done, it was really cool to see how the entire team stay together, not just the one who had that role specifically designed for them. So we talk about identifying roles. The second one is defining responsibilities, clearly defined roles, clearly defined goals. Number 3 is setting expectations. So what is expected in your role and how do we measure success at the end of each day? Number 4 is communicating those roles. It's one thing to define them, it's another thing to communicate them and constantly go back and review them. Oftentimes when we have dysfunction on our teams, it's when their role starts to spill over. And it's not that people aren't willing to do it, it's that they weren't expecting that that was going to be part of their job. And so it creates confusion, misunderstanding, and oftentimes discontent when someone's doing something outside of what they believe they were hired to do. So be really clear when roles change or when expectations change. Are they permanent changes? Are they short-term changes? Are they things we need to do in order to be able to fix something? Communicate clearly and effectively on those roles. And then encourage open communication. When a client or one of your employees or one of your team members feels like, man, this isn't really what I was hoping I would do, create an environment that allows you to talk it through with them. Sometimes you still need them because they have the skills to be able to do it or because there's no one else to fill the role, but you give them a clear expectation of how long they're going to be in that role and what that's going to look like. The next is to review regularly. It's important that you give consistent reviews and feedback so your employees know how they're doing. Everybody wants to know that they're meeting expectations. They also look for opportunities of where they can grow. And then last is, and this is probably one of the biggest challenges you'll have as a team leader, is how do you delegate and effectively delegate and let things go? Just because you can do it. How many times as a leader have you said, oh, it's just easier to do it myself than it is to teach somebody else to do it? Well, when you say that, what you're saying is, I don't trust my team. And so rather than say that, say, how do I delegate this in a way where it begins to foster a culture of trust? A leader that can't delegate isn't actually a leader. Think about it. You need to clearly define roles, clearly define responsibilities. You need to have great tape to hold your team together. Effective communication is simple, but it's not easy. You have to follow a process. If you want a copy of the TAAAPPEE method, I'm going to give it to you right here at the bottom of this video. You can download the whole acronym and each of the descriptions in the TAAAPPEE method. And I encourage you to put together the tape. Use the Gorilla Glue. Put the things in your business and your team that will keep you together long term. Having a team is fun. It creates life balance for everybody, and look for the individual success of the people you lead. Have fun with building your team on effective communication.